Hey, my name is Jay Sweet. I'm the Executive Director of the Newport Festivals Foundation, and I'm here with my good friend, Chris Tetzeli.
I'm the president, co-founder of 7S Management, a management company based in Denver, Colorado.
And whose clients have played many of the events that I book and promote. So,
Absolutely.
This, we do things in kind of, subject matter, and why I obviously roped you in totally against your will was because, one, I get to say thank you on camera, because if you heard about the fact that Paul Simon played with Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats at Newport making history is very much due to this gentleman right here. So that aside, there's your thanks. Now I'm going to ask you the hard stuff.
Pretty big team effort.
Yeah, that was me just boosting you up. So, management. I want to ask you right away, because I'm not going to keep you here long. What I want to ask you right away is, quick question, when did you consider yourself a manager? What was your first client? How long ago was it?
North Mississippi All-Stars, when I was part of Red Light Management, probably around 1996, 97.
Okay, so in 1996, 97, you're like, oh my God, I'm a manager of a band.
Yeah.
So awesome. You're like, okay, this is it. My next question then would be, now, you don't have to name, your age now. Now my question is, what do you know that you have done well since almost the first day you became a manager? Not what have you learned through all the mistakes. What was the one thing that you said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to get a reputation, like this is one of my core components of doing what I do, that you think you have kept true to until now?
The two things I'm fairly confident, I sure hope that I'm trustworthy, that people take me for my word. There are a lot of things I feel like I can do better, but that's paramount. And then also I do know it's part of the job, but I'm also not afraid of doing anything on any level of the job, whether it's helping a band load out at 1:30 in the morning, or doing the overnight drive, or flying to LA to meet with an executive of a record company and take them out to dinner. There's so many levels to what we do. Same thing with you.
Right.
You're either talking to the...
If you're not the one picking up the trash, why are you expecting anybody else to pick up the trash when you're walking around site? Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So those two things, I know I've been consistent in both of those matters.
I would concur wholeheartedly. I think, it's easy. We always talk about getting good at your job or a master of your craft, and I always say that if you can hold on, why I asked you that question, if you can hold on to the thing that got you excited to want to do the job, if you can hold that thing on and not let it go till now, I think that's something to really be proud of yourself, because it's very easy in what both of us do to kind of forget what made you want to get into it in the first place. Yeah. So it doesn't become a job. Yeah. It's still like a profession, and becomes your profession becomes your passion becomes your profession. You have to, it's a fine line. When you had your first couple of clients, what was it immediately that you're like, oh, there's a lot that I don't know? I remember getting this gig, running Newport, and saying, oh my God, I'm so excited, because now that I have the opportunity to do all these things, and you get hit right in the face into the brick wall of like, oh, I didn't know this, that, or the other thing. If you could now, the trite, cheesy question of talk back to you from the day you signed the North Mississippi All-Stars, and knowing what you know now, can you name me two things that you would tell yourself?
I think the one thing I think about...
As if you would listen. You probably wouldn't listen, but what would you say?
I think it's a business of relationships come in really handy. It's important. And my personal history was coming up in Charlottesville, Virginia, where I got to know Dave Matthews 3 years before he started a band. And then thankfully, and I'm forever grateful, his manager, is still to this day, ended up hiring me. And so we were based out of Charlottesville, Virginia, with this steamroller of a band. And what I'm getting to is, it was a blessing, because we weren't in LA, New York, Nashville. So we had to figure things out on our own, and Korn did a masterful job of that. And now he runs a Red Light Management's incredible, and it's the biggest management company.
I was going to say probably one of the most influential managers in the country. That's Corn Capshaw.
100%. And he was the hardest working, and still is, and brilliant manager. And it was a blessing because we didn't have any rule book to follow. We weren't going to lunch in New York or LA and people were telling us how to do it. So records were self-released, merchandise was sold by ourselves, no publishing deal. We were figuring everything out. So what I would say to myself is, with that in mind, on the flip side, really throughout the years, I've tried to do this, but I think I would really emphasize it, maximize the relationships. When we are in New York, when we are in LA, really try to make those connections, not in a fake way, but in a real way, because that will lead, all those relationships will lead to something down the line.
Absolutely.
So, and even to this current day, now being in Denver, which I love, and it's a similar setup, where I work with Nathaniel Rateliff, that's sort of Denver's band right now. And it's an amazing music city. A lot of people come out for shows, but I'm not in New York, LA, or Nashville. So I would tell myself back then, really make the most out of all the relationships, all the introductions you get, follow up.
I really like something in there that you don't even realize you're saying that I'm going to point out, is that you are, I would say, one of the best, if not the best, at, you just said, the actual physical location. A lot of people think they're staying in touch or hanging with it on a phone call or whatever, which is important, but you and I have had some of the most, I think, fruitful conversations that have borne unbelievable fruit.
Yeah.
Skiing together or getting a drink together or having a meal together whenever you're in my hood, I'm in your hood, or we're both together in the same city. That's what you do better than most, is knowing, again, this is 10 times better than an email.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me you learned that working with Corn and Red Light.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
if you're in the room, that's when your word becomes even more important, because you've said it to the person, and then you got to live with that, right?
There's also probably a little space when you're together, if you're having a meal or you're going for a hike or you're at a festival. It's so important. A lot of industry travels to festivals. We see a lot of people, Newport being at the top of that list, and you'll end up backstage with somebody talking. There's a space to that encounter that doesn't exist on a phone call or a Zoom.
Right.
It's like you're trying to take care of business, and it's like, okay, great, we're going to print a black T-shirt, talk to you later. Yeah. As opposed to you're sitting there,
right.
And there's some kind of magic may occur, some kind of idea may pop up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get freaked out in our office when it's so quiet, and it is, right? Because of email and I don't even see people on the phone, because even within our industry, just that tone of voice, the laughter, the communication, the emotion of hearing somebody's voice, as opposed to trying to decipher what's behind the text.
But it also, you have one of the industry's best looks, when it's just like, come on, look, you're like,
I don't know.
I know, but I'm telling you, that's about what it looks like. Like,
all right. Yeah.
That's like I get it. Like, and which allows me to stop talking, which is unbelievable. I want to get to just one more kind of meat and potatoes question. So, young artists, obviously, you don't want to be the person that's just sitting there being like, yeah, send me all your submissions, send me everything. Yeah. I think I know, but I'd love you to say it is, obviously the people who are watching this, what we consider the audience and the psychographic of the people that are hopefully watching this are, they've gotten to the point where they're like, I think this is what I want to do for a living. It's you before you're like, I want to be a manager. I'm going to be a manager, and this is my first band. I'm going to go through walls for them. I think the people that are watching this are saying, okay, two guys who've made at least you can make a living out of what you're doing. I haven't been able to figure out how to make a living what I'm doing. I would love to get on your festival and your management. How do I do that? I know how I would answer on that, and I've done this many times, so we don't have to worry about that answer. Your answer is?
I mean, we listen to everything that gets sent in. It's important to us that we respond to everybody. I think the most important thing for a developing band is to start achieving small successes in their town, and sort of talk about concentric circles. So if, like, sometimes we just get blown away by somebody's music, and we'll reach out and start a relationship. There's actually something like that going on right now with an amazing manager, and it would be a total leap of faith, but it's just, he went to see a show and just, it was phenomenal. He's like, I want to do this. I want to take this all the way. But what we love to see is, it doesn't matter how small it is, whether you're in your hometown, in a small town in Vermont, or New York City, or LA, or a college town, just small successes like
graduating from room to room to room within your town, right?
I started in my aunt's living room, and 30 family members came, and 10 friends. Then I got down to the coffee house, and 50 people came, and that was great. I went back a month later and sold it out at 100 people. Now I'm playing at the small theater that, I just sold that out at 250. And now I've started doing that at the next town. That's sort of the concentric circles and starting to grow. Tiny little success stories like that that are real, show that something's happening with the music, that it's moving people.
That's why I knew you and I would be able to say
that
this.
impresses us.
Right, because you have to imagine, because of our longevity of doing what we do, we have these kind of, for lack of a term, these kind of tentacle feelers that are out there, right? And I always say, if you just keep doing what you're doing in your community, and that community could be for lack of a term, because I don't like the term genre, but in your sound of music, or in your affiliations with, they keep opening for another band community, or it's a local community, like they are the Denver band, or they're that band from Vermont, or they're that band from Chicago, or Evanston, if you're good, I promise you, we will kind of start hearing about it. And then once I hear about it 2 or 3 times, I then do my deep dive. Yeah. I always say it's like learning the word in the dictionary. Once I learn the word, I start seeing it everywhere, and then it becomes part of my lexicon. And I think with artists, you have to trust that just because you're not in New York or LA or doing some showcase where you think there's going to be 10 music people there, those aren't the places that, well, for me, those aren't the things where I usually find those bands. It's degrees of separation from bands I already know, and if a band is like, we're bringing this band up on the road with us because we think they're great, and I think the band that's making the decision is great, by nature it's like, well, if they think they're great, I'm going to try to listen to it and see what happens. I mean, I guess my way, and that's why I really want to talk to you, because between festival and management, a lot of it is curatorial, right? And there's also like, hey, you might be the biggest band in the world, but it doesn't really vibe what I'm doing here at this festival, or wow, I've actually seen you do this, where you're like, you think a band is great and you know they're gonna pop, but just maybe not right for your management company. Just doesn't mean they're bad or good, or they're just like, hey, and I've actually seen you say, hey, you know who'd be really good for you, and recommend the right manager for you.
100%.
That happens, right?
Yeah, it's such an important relationship, and I obviously won't name names, but I've been in situations and seen people in situations where they're not entirely impassioned about the act they're working with, and I think that catches up with you, Eventually. Yeah, and
because if you're not passionate, you're not going to be the guy driving at night. You're not going to be the guy moving into box.
And every band deserves that, and there will be the right manager for them.
Right.
And I can't believe how lucky we are to do what we are, and be in any kind of profession, in any job where we love it so much.
I can't believe we're both considered professionals. That on alone is a funny thing.
I think we work pretty hard and deserve it. But when we go to work, the only reason we stare at the clock, the only reason I stare at the clock is my family is my number one priority. Right. And right after that are my clients and coworkers. The only reason, and the clock moves fast, which we're so lucky about. It's like,
that's a good point.
Oh my God, it's 4:30. I only have an hour and a half left, as opposed to like, it's only 4:30. I got 90 more minutes of this. It's like, I have to leave at 6. I got to go see my family, and then kids go to bed, and you're back on the computer. We are so fortunate, and know that we're probably in the minority of people on this planet who have that luxury of loving their work so much, and I know other professions do, but. And
I think when you're talking about people, and this is a great place to end, when you're talking about people like us, because I have to do what I do. There's no, as you said, I never have enough time to keep doing it. Yeah. Like, it's never like, when am I checking the hell out of here? Can I fake that I'm doing something? Like, I can't do that. It's the exact opposite. But I think what I'm saying is, the place where I want to end is like, to anybody I would be saying is, if you just do your thing, if you stay true to the thing you're doing and you think this is the sound, don't change it and da-da-da to try to make it because you think you're going to attract the attention of one of us. Do your thing, and I'm telling you, we've been in here long enough that just keep doing it, build your own circles, build your own community, build your own fan base little by little, and you'll probably hear from the right manager or the right festival.
100%.
So this is my friend Chris Tetzeli. He's a great manager. My name's Jay Sweet. I appreciate you all. Boom.
That's all there is.
All right, boom.
Sweet.
That was pretty good. That was easy.